Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
I was such a fan of the Legion of Superheroes when I was a kid that I always wanted to work with this version of the characters that was designed back in the 1970s. They all had kind of sexier looking costumes that provided almost bikini-like effects for a lot of the characters, both for the men and the women. And there was a sense of the liberation of the age in the 70s. Long hair came into vogue, and there was a lot of feathered hair in some of the cases for the women, and it was designed by one of my favorite costume designers, the legendary Dave Cockrum, who designed the modern X-Men as well as the original Guardians of the Galaxy. And he did this first. He gave all these redesigns to every character. So when I got to create this single painting, I had no gig that had demanded it. It wasn't a deal I had made with anybody, so I started on the piece of art, worked on it for off and on through a year, pitched it to get it made into a print, which it luckily got accepted because it otherwise is a version of the characters that was no longer standing. This was sort of my love letter to the artists that defined that era and characters that really impacted me when I was a young child.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome Rob Williams back to Word Balloon. Rob, great to see you.
Hey, John. Good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. God, we talked last fall about your AWA series, Out.
That's right, yeah.
And a trade coming out in March.
Yeah, and issue 4 is actually in shops today. Yeah, it's a 5-issue book, so penultimate issue today, and then the trade is sometime in March. I forget when.
Okay, terrific World War II horror story. Really have enjoyed it, and God, you and Will Conrad just killing it. So I'm thrilled that that's going well. How are we doing?
Yeah, as far as we know, yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, you know what it's like with this stuff. All you can do is make the best book you can, the one you're proud of, and we really love the book. It's kind of it's exactly what we wanted it to be. So after that, we just see where the chips fall, right?
Well, again, I'm always happy to help promote AWA Books. I think fun company, and I think they choose good talent and great projects and stuff. And no, I've enjoyed Out, and all the best, man, in terms of the wrap up, and then of course the upcoming trade. So yeah, that's great to hear. And then also we're here really to talk about a brand new series that's coming up. Well, actually, first issue already out, correct? Sword of
last week. Sword of Hyperborea 1 came out last week.
Excellent. Now, this is set in the Hellboy universe.
Yeah.
And you and Mignola writing this together. Time-spanning story. We're kind of looking at the history of the sword, correct?
Yeah, it's only a very small time span. It's just thousands upon thousands of years in a four issue miniseries. I mean, basically, there's it's tough when you're covering that amount of time to actually sort of high concept it. But basically, the long-time readers of Hellboy and BPRD will recognize this sword. It's been like an Excalibur-like weapon within the universe, right? And so there was a character called Howard, who was a BPRD agent, who picked it up in a temple in Chicago, and was immediately kind of possessed and kind of not by the memories of this barbarian character called Gal Denar, who lived in the post-Hyperborean age, thousands upon thousands of years ago. So issue 1 is following on really from the events at the end of BPRD and Hellboy, which is, spoilers, we kind of know that the monsters win and the earth burns, basically, which is, if you haven't read it, sorry, but it was a couple of years ago now. So Howard's has his fate that we saw it in the end of a BPRD book, and then we go to Galdena, who suddenly has all the memory. The thing that was interesting to me was this character thousands of years ago suddenly has all the memories of this man from thousands of years in the future, and he knows that the battle ends in defeat. He knows that all this is kind of for naught. So the question that kind of interested me was, and I think and interested Mike as well, was like, what do you do, when you know you lose? And the page one, the first bit of dialogue in it is him turning to his girlfriend, who's, for some reason my name is currently escaping me. Come on, help me out, John. From Hellboy.
Yeah, I'm help, man. And it's not Liz. It's
Liz. It's Liz Sherman.
It is Liz. All right, it is Liz Shaw. Shame on us.
Sorry. I'm turning to Liz and saying, do you think we lose? And then it's really, well, what do you do from that point on? And what he does is he figures, well, someone put this amazing amount of power in this sword, and it was these great warriors of the past. And the sword was given to his grandfather long ago. So he goes on an epic barbarian quest, which takes years, as we see in the book. And he tries to find those ancient warriors, because he figures, well, if they had all this power, if he can contact them, maybe they can give him the power and he can still change the future. And that's kind of the journey of issue one. But then as the book goes on, we're going to jump forward in time to World War One, World War Two, and then the sort of Chicago blues era, sort of the 50s, when all the kind of great bluesmen came up from the South and they went to Chicago and plugged in, which is kind of the birth of rock and roll.
Yes, sir.
And basically what we're going to see is we know the sword gets to Chicago. We've seen that. That's where Howard's picked it up. But how did it get there? Because the last time we saw it was in Sir Edward Grey's office in London at the end of the 19th century. So there's a big span of we don't know where the sword was or how it ended up in a temple in Chicago, which is really weird. So this is kind of a story of the people who've held the sword along the way.
Honestly, living in Chicago, I don't know if back in when we discovered that the sword is here in the city and stuff, if you have a specific neighborhood in mind, because I know when I would go to New York Comic-Con, I would stay near where supposedly Nero Wolfe's brownstone was,
right
in the city, and I would walk by, and there's even a brownstone that had a plaque, and it's like, this is supposedly where Nero Wolfe lived, and I always loved that. So, do you know? I mean, were you involved in that original story, or I mean, do you know?
No, that was oh hell, I think that was James Harron definitely drew it. I think John Arcudi wrote it.
Oh, okay, sure.
With Mignola, so you'd have to ask him. I mean, without giving spoilers away, we go back to that. We go circular. Writers love symmetry, and where we start, we usually end.
Sure,
and, which is a cheap writer's trick. But we end. But we'll go back to that temple again in issue 4 without giving too much away.
That's outstanding, man. Dante wants to know, out of curiosity, how is it working with Mike? Is it a collaboration on the plot? Then you go off and script, or do you both work on the script together? How does it work?
It was kind of like this book. One of the nice things about this book was it was hugely collaborative anyway, because Lawrence Campbell, the artist on the book, who's amazing, and I've worked with a bunch of times before, did a book called Old Haunts, which I have here.
Of course. One of your other AWA books. Indeed. Stand by. Zoom in.
Yeah.
Boom.
So Lawrence and Ollie Masters and I did Old Haunts together, which is kind of like a ghost, a haunting of gangsters, I think is the easiest way to describe it. So Lawrence was kind of on sort of Hyperborea first, and Lawrence and I are good friends. And Lawrence basically was talking about, he had a bunch of ideas, and he'd been talking to Mike Mignola about it. And I think Lawrence's idea was kind of to tell the story of who held the sword along the way, and we could meet these people and tell their stories. And Lawrence, said, would you be interested in writing this? And then I sort of talked to the Dark Horse guys, and unfortunately, I'd had a meeting with Katie O'Brien, who's the editor in New York Comic Con a couple of years ago, and we talked about my potentially doing some BPRD work. So it all kind of came together. But then working with Mike was, it was obviously a thrill, because I'm a big fan of the Hellboy stuff going back years, and BPRD as well. But Mike had a with issue 1, he had a plot basically in mind for what Galdenar would do, and we kind of largely followed that, but we treated it as a spine that we then just built ideas on top of and branched out from, But in terms of sort of, there's scenes in there which Mike described to us, and then it was just from that point on. It was one of the nice things about this book is it was we almost treated it a bit like you do a create your own project. Is that it wasn't that linear sort of break between writer writes script and gives it to the artist, and artist draws it, and you never speak or anything. Lawrence and I would speak a lot, and we'd talk about scenes and ideas, and he would contribute to sort of some plot ideas, and I would sort of and then we had a couple of cool Zoom calls with Mike where we just knocked ideas about. And the thing is with Mike is just, hey, like absolutely, this bottom line is this is his world. He knows all of it, and he knows things that he'll kind of do something. He goes, I kind of had this idea a few years ago, and he'll just go blur. And we could do about 14 different stories coming out of that. And he goes, well, if you want to do something with it, you kind of can. It's all been fun, and everyone's been very kind of collegial and welcoming, and no egos. It's been great.
Great to hear, man. No, excellent. And I hope everyone was able to see. I was trying to scroll through some of Lawrence's artwork there. So that's cool. And Daniel has a question. He really loves Lawrence's work on this series. Can you ask what happened to the missing Fredo?
Hello, Daniel. That was a joke online. We would. I was saying on Twitter where I waste far too much time. I think last week I bought a bunch of Freddos, which are these little tiny chocolate bars shaped in like a frog for my daughter to take to school. And I admitted I got hungry and I'd eaten one of them. And then Daniel won't won't leave me alone about it. But no, Lawrence's art on this is amazing. He's fantastic. He's a master of kind of like creating mood on the pages, I think. But with issue 1, I mean, one of the things we talked about is like we really wanted it to have this epic widescreen feel, like it was like a Terrence Malick movie on the page. You know what I mean? All those shots of fields and wheat blowing in fields and whatever that Malick does. And when Galdenar goes on this epic quest, there's an amazing couple of double-page spreads where I'd get out of Lawrence's way, and Lawrence just shows these little vignettes of different adventures that Galdenar has had along the way, like him fighting a pterodactyl and walking in massive, incredible biblical rain amongst woolly mammoths. And we really wanted to make it feel, if he's going to go on a quest, it's got to feel like it's important, and it's taken him a long time.
100%, man. No, it's very epic. And who's coloring?
This is Quinton Winter, who I worked with on a Vertigo book a few years ago called Unfollow. So we've worked together before.
Of course, Unfollow, another great series, Rob. Absolutely, man. Jesus, there's always a million things to talk about with you and everything. I loved Unfollow. Well, I love the way Quinton is coloring it, because as different as Lawrence's art style is, immediately you are sucked in, and it's like, this is the Hellboy universe. I mean, it really, despite the different art styles and stuff. In fact, last week I was talking to Warwick. I want to say Warwick Johnson. Shame on me for not.
I know. Quite,
And then, I mean, he's got definitely a different style of art and everything, but it all feels like Hellboy in its own.
I mean, I think one of the amazing things is, just as a fan, is just like all these people Mike's collaborated with over the years on Hellboy and BPRD. The standard is incredibly high. I mean, people like Duncan Fegredo and James Harron, Guy Davis, and now people like Warwick and Lawrence.
Gary Gianni, another one recently in the last couple of years.
You really feel like it's kind of, you feel like you've almost been invited into a very kind of selective clubhouse for a little bit, and you kind of go, well, that's cool. I hope I don't break things while I'm here and sort of smell the joint out or something. So you just, but it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a vast world. I mean, I always, whenever I'm talking to a Mignola collaborator and stuff, I'm always like, I'm a big Lobster Johnson fan.
Yeah.
And, love that. And then, we've got, this story and everything. And then the story that Warwick's working on as well. And it's a vast universe, and it's pretty cool that Mignola over these almost 30 years have really, done an amazing job of mapping out the Hellboy universe.
To my mind, I mean, I don't know Mike well at all, but it seems like there's a lot more there should he want to do it. I mean, basically, because he will, without any spoilers. There was one thing was something that happens in issue 3 of Sword of Hyperborea. And Mike went, "Oh, well, that reminds me of this idea I had." And then he just basically told Lawrence and I if we're right, sort of like a little bit of the secret history of the Hellboy universe, which I don't think he's ever written down. And we were kind of going, this is kind of awesome. You know what I mean? Just to hear this. So whether he'll do anything with that, and then but you know, I think he's kind of half retired, but then he keeps on having these cool ideas, and he can't help himself, basically. So off he goes, and yeah, let's hope he keeps doing it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, without going into how this story wraps up and everything, I mean, you know, yeah, are there places to go where you want to with these characters as well?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, one of the things that Lawrence and I wanted to do, I mean, issue 1, you've met Galdena and you've met Howards before. They're established characters in this world, but we're creating brand new characters. You'll see, and effectively, issue 2 is one character's origin story. Issue 3 is one character's origin story. Issue 4 is one character's origin story. And there is potential, and you know, we've talked about it, and we've been talking with the guys about it, and so you know, we'll see where we go. We hopefully these characters will have a longer life, but you know, because we think we've stumbled across something a bit cool with them, but yeah, time will tell.
Very cool, man. I pulled up some covers of old stuff, and I don't know if we talked about this, but I am curious. Did you know your work on the Judge Dredd TV pilot?
Yeah,
yeah. Like, is that streaming anywhere?
No, it's not. It's in development, John.
Well, it's still in development.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't say anything about it, but basically, I mean, I wrote. It was announced a few years ago. I wrote the pilot script, and I did a bunch of work, sort of mapping out the major beats of what would be series 1, and yeah, it's just. I mean, I think COVID put a you know.
Sure, of course.
It's. I mean, I've been basically Rebellion, the company who make 2000D, who own Judge Dredd. They bought this this old printing press in Didcot Parkway in the UK, and they've turned it into a movie studio. You know, they're serious about it, and they want to do it properly. And I went down there one day to see they use the virtual studio technology that they use on The Mandalorian. So it's just basically this crazy thing. It's like walking into something like Blade Runner, where you've got this curved sort of virtual set of screens. So they project the CGI backgrounds on them, and they have the actors working. So, I mean, it's all kind of there waiting, and there's a script and everything. It's just, I think they're still, you know, they're talking to sort of big companies, and fingers crossed, we'll see where it goes.
I hope so, man. That's amazing. That's an amazing opportunity. And yeah, like you said, it's honestly, I'm fascinated by this new technology. And I are you watching Boba Fett right now?
I've seen 2. I haven't seen all of it.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I'm an episode behind as well, at least 2 now episodes behind. I love what I've seen so far. I am fascinated by this technology, and I think it is a great opportunity to tell bigger stories on a television.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching just this morning. I don't know if this is right, but I was watching The Tragedy of Macbeth on Apple. You know, the new Cohen, the black and white thing, which is great, and I really enjoyed it. But that feels like it's using that technology to me. There's a lot of physical, almost like theater-like sets in the foreground, and then you've got all these amazing kind of backgrounds behind. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they've done exactly the same with that. And yeah, I think it's kind of like the future. When I was down there was a lot of British directors who'd come down to for the day just to see this technology for the first time, and because I think everyone knows this is how they're going to be making their shows in the future.
It is amazing. My God, I mean, you know, these giant screens, and yeah, like you said, it's this interesting composite that used to be done in post-production as far as you know, putting shit together and everything, and now they're able to really shoot that way. So yeah, I think it's very interesting.
I think it's, I mean, I don't know about cost-wise it makes sense, but if you're going to do a show like Judge Dredd, Mega City 1, and you're going to do it properly, it's going to be expensive. It can't not be. There's no way. You can't do it as a stage play. Do you know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah.
So someone's going to have to put in a lot of money, and I mean, one of the only things I would say is, like, as much as people love the Alex Garland movie, you know, which was great, and from a few years ago, but it was it was deliberately very sort of limited to sort of like all took place in the tower block, which made total sense to keep budget down. But it didn't sort of embrace the craziness of the city, which is a huge part of what Dread is.
Yeah.
And there's a real intention to do that, to get all this sort of the black comedy and all the wildness of the city and the different factions of the city and everything into the Mega City 1 TV show. But you know, we shall see. Many things have been in development over the years, John, and not all of them come to pass. So fingers crossed.
Indeed, fingers crossed. Absolutely, man. And no, I hope COVID doesn't screw it completely and everything. So Dante says that whole LED Walt Disney has been using has been impressive as hell. Indeed. Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I also wanted to reach back on a couple of your old comics, and one of them was Star Wars Rebellion.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And really, that's great. I totally forgot. So that's Tank from old dialogue, right? From the first movie.
That was like a really cool story. That was already in place when I came on board. I'm just racking my memory now, but it was someone in the Dark Horse Star Wars books that had this idea of a Tank, you know, Luke's friend from Tatooine who goes off. Luke, you know, he joins the Imperials, and Luke joins the Rebellion, as we know where that goes. So that storyline was kind of like Tank became a kind of very successful Imperial officer, and his white whale is to kind of catch the man who blew up the Death Star, and he has no idea that it's his best friend from Tatooine. And of course, you know, eventually they come face to face, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, growing up, I was such a huge Star Wars fan. I forget now, it was a long time ago, but I was talking to, I think, an editor, a really nice guy who was an editor at Dark Horse at the time, Jeremy Barlow, and he kind of went, "Oh, would you like to write Star Wars?" It was like, yes, I would like to write Star Wars. Thank you. So yeah, that was fun.
Have you had the opportunity yet, or have you talked to Marvel about ever coming back to Star Wars?
No, I'm no. I mean, I would. I mean, it's weird though, but generationally, if I was to do it again, I think I'd largely be doing it because my son loves Star Wars, and I think he'd get such a kick out of his dad writing Star Wars. You know what I mean? But whereas like when I did this, which is probably, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, maybe something like that. It was like, I didn't know.
It was like 15 years ago. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it's weird how it becomes and like one of the cool things now is like the MCU stuff and the Star Wars stuff. Like he and I watch it together. It's about the only thing we watch together, and it's like it all comes full circle.
That's excellent, man. What did the two of you think of Hawkeye?
I really enjoyed Hawkeye. I mean, Hawkeye I thought was one of the most enjoyable Marvel things for a while, actually. And it kind of had that. Oh man, I'm blanking on all kinds of names. That sort of Shane Black kind of thing.
Oh, good. Sure.
Yeah. It felt like that's what they were kind of reaching for, and I really like Shane Black, so I'm
with you.
I was in, but and then some really cool characters, and I love the guy. I forget the name of the actor. He's in Better Call Saul as well. He was playing the swordsman in it, right? So
yes, very good. I was
just like, I want to see more of him. So yeah, that was terrific.
Yeah, and I'm so dense. I didn't recognize him initially as swordsman, and then of course when they were fencing, it's like, of course he's swordsman. It's a Hawkeye story.
Yeah,
and I love Ghost. I thought Ghost was terrific in it, and everything is echoes number 2.
Yeah,
and really they managed to like achieve all three things in terms of great Marvel action story, funny Christmas story as well.
Yeah,
introducing Kate Bishop.
Yeah,
and Echo, and great use of Black Widow as well, and everything.
Yeah.
Yelena. I mean, no, the whole thing top to bottom, and it was like, wow, they stuck the landing. I thought it was a terrific story.
Yeah, I think they cast. Whatever, like whoever the actual MVP of the Marvel Universe, whoever casts it deserves pay rises, because they just don't ever seem to get it wrong. And it's just, that was like a really nice little ensemble piece. Like Florence Pugh is terrific. And Jeremy Renner is just like, I really enjoyed him in it because he looks a bit battered and a bit weathered, and he doesn't look like, don't get me wrong, Chris Evans and whatever were great, but you get these you get these perfect looking Hollywood actors as leads. To see someone who looked like he sort of, fallen on hard times, shall we say, a little bit, was like really enjoyable. It sort of totally humanized it. And Kate Bishop, I forget the name of the actress, but Haley something, right? But she was great.
Oh yeah, Haley Stanfield. Yeah. No, and again, she was like the great surprise. I wouldn't know who to cast as Kate Bishop, and man, as soon as she came on, and I've been saying this really ever since it's started, I'm like, God damn, like you just said, the casting was so dead on. She was funny. Her physical business was great.
Yeah.
She was endearing. And it's like, man, that's the kind of if you screw that up from a casting standpoint, you really screw the story. Yeah. And no, she was terrific. And I'm so with you on Renner, who just looked like whatever, meat grinder he had just come out of. It's like the last thing he was ready to do was hit on another adventure. And it's like, all right, fine. I'll, so begrudgingly, like, call to action. And it's like, all right, I'll do what I can. But it was such the right tone. And also that classic Christmas trope of, I got to get home for Christmas. I know the family's waiting for me. All right, I'm sorry. I got to finish it. And in this case, it's a Marvel problem. So it's like even better. No, you see the smile on my face. I thought it was amazing.
No, they get great performance. I was thinking, we went to see Spider-Man No Way Home the other day. And it was terrific. But they get really good actors, but they get really good performances out of these guys. And you kind of go, well, that must be really hard because they're just standing in front of blue screen most of the day, right? You know what I mean? How you get such good performances out of people who, when it's kind of, it can't be the easiest, but yeah.
I agree. Mark says Hawkeye was the best of the MCU Disney shows.
Yeah, totally.
Did a bunch of different things and succeeded of all of them spectacularly. I agree. And Dante says it kind of reminded him of Shane Black's work on things like The Last Boy Scout and Lethal Weapon. Absolutely. Yeah. And then also to transition back to your work, Rob, Dante says your Suicide Squad run was fun as hell. And,
thank you very much. Yeah.
Who was in your lineup for Suicide Squad?
It was Boomerang and Deadshot and Harley and Killer Croc and Enchantress and Katana. For the most part. A few other people came and go as I went along, but it was like that was the core because that was really the lineup for the first movie. And when we were planning my run on Suicide Squad, I forget who it was. I think Jeff Johns basically said to me, it's probably a good idea you use the movie lineup. We didn't really know anything that was happening in the movie. They didn't tell us that, but we sort of came out of the blocks with, you could recognize who was on the post and it was in issue 1 as well. But
how long were you there on Suicide Squad?
Maybe 4 years. It's it's the reason I'm bald now, John. That's why I lost my hair with Suicide Squad. I looked like David Coverdale from Whitesnake before I took that job. No, that's a joke. I did about 50 issues. I might be wrong. I think I might have done more issues than Stranded did on Suicide Squad, but we were double shipping through the bulk of it. And that was just crazy, to be honest with you, to be doing 2 issues a month for the bulk of it. We got through a lot of work, but and a lot of artists, but yeah, I mean, I got to work with amazing people like Jim Lee and John Romita Jr. and it was a blast for a lot of it, and a lot of it was really hard work as well. But the thing with Suicide Squad, one of the things I liked about the James Gunn movie, I felt like that was kind of tonally not far removed from what the tone of my run was, because I figured it needed to be like a punk song on the page, basically, So my initial run, every issue had the storyline of a Ramones song as well, because I couldn't with good grace, I couldn't use British punk on it because it's so American, basically. So I felt it had to be the Ramones. So it was it's a lot of fun. It's great to see. I haven't seen Peacemaker yet, but the James Gunn movie, it was terrific again.
I was going to ask. Okay, I've only seen the first episode. I know 3 were out initially, and I think as we're speaking today, they probably dropped a new one. But no, I enjoyed the first episode. And Dante wanted to know how it was working with Jim and Romita Jr. on the series.
It was awesome, and it was a whirlwind as well. It was just because we were double shipping, like I say, the pages, Jim's pages were coming in so fast, and it's one of those surreal things where you kind of look back to when I used to read X-Men, when Jim was on it, you kind of go, just to find yourself working with people like that, it just blows your mind, really. But no, Jim's amazing. He's like, there's a reason he's one of the most successful storytellers in the business. It's just, so that was an absolute, I mean, it's exactly the same with John Romita Jr. I mean, God, I used to read Johnny Romita Jr.'s Amazing Spider-Man run. You know what I mean? When I was probably about 14 or something like that. So crazy. And again, just rock solid storytelling, just great stuff on the page. Whatever you write down just makes it work, makes it look great. It's just, it's a dream working with those guys.
Attaboy. I want to reach back for another oldie, and that was your Indiana Jones story.
Yeah.
So tell me about this one. What was this story about?
Well, I was like, it's funny. The two times in my life, it was like the Suicide Squad one with the David Ayers movie coming out, and the same thing happened here with Indy and Crystal Skull. We knew it was coming, and it was like, right. So Dark Horse wanted to do a new Indiana Jones book. And because I was working on Star Wars at the time with the editor, Jeremy Barlow, Jeremy asked me if I wanted to do it. And then, it was just sort of the general idea was kind of like, it was Indiana Jones meets sort of Call of Cthulhu, basically. It was
sure.
Like he goes into some temple and finds some alien artifact, and then it's a race against time to, stop something big and squiddy coming out into the world and whatever, So yeah, I mean, how can you not have a good time writing Indiana Jones? It was just, and one of the things, I mean, I loved is I had Marcus Brody along with him along the way, because I always loved Denham Elliott in those
Absolutely,
movies.
Man, great actor, great character.
So I thought, don't leave him behind. Let's have him there, or throughout, and just about. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I've got to write Star Wars. I've written Indiana Jones. I've written RoboCop. I've written Ghostbusters. I mean, I've done a fair bit of licensed work in my time, but it's all stuff I was a fan of as a kid. I don't think I've ever done one of these books where I didn't love the movie when I was a kid. You know what I mean? So
you've served the license as well, man. Honestly, and Doctor Who is another one you did.
Yeah, Doctor Who is same. Yeah, I did a couple of years on Doctor Who, which was great, and worked with. Co-wrote with Al Ewing and with Cy Spurrier, and we did a couple of seasons of 11th Doctor. And that you can sometimes with license work, there's a feeling that like, oh, okay, it's fine, it's enjoyable, but it's not that challenging. And our Doctor Who runs, I actually think, with some really challenging. We did some genuinely good comics there, which I think we were constantly pushing each other to sort of. If Al Ewing would write a script, and I go, that's really good. I've got to do it. I've got to raise my game, and then I go. Then Al would, and same with Cy Spurrier and on series 2. So, yeah, if anyone is ever so inclined, they should go out and check out our 11th Doctor run, because I think it's some of the best stuff I've ever done, to be honest.
That's the Matt Smith Doctor 11, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right, very good. I sometimes as the numbers get into the double G, I get confused sometimes, but yeah. So that's awesome, man. I've loved your licensed work. I've loved your original stuff. Unfollow. Let's talk about that for a second. What a great Vertigo series, and certainly timely in its nexus with social media and stuff back in the day.
Yeah, and I the weird thing about Unfollow is just it was all about just how it came out of two things. One was the fact that the Arab Spring was going on, and people were talking about. Social media is going to free us. It's going to make us, rise up against our oppressors, and then you could see it going the other way and being used to actually, take freedoms away from people. And then I think Dan Harmon said a really good line. I heard this years later, but I think it sums up Unfollow. He said social media was supposed to break down the walls, which is great. We just didn't realize they were supporting walls. And then you fast forward a few years later, and you've got like Trump in the White House, and you've got Brexit happening over here. And I don't think either of those things would have happened without social media. So it was it's basically the quick plot summary, if I can do it quickly. I don't know if I can with Unfollow. Is that the guy who invents social media is dying of cancer. So he basically is a billionaire, and he's going to give all his money away. And he says to people, 140 people around the world are going to get an app on this. And if the app turns up, the mystery app, you're going to get a share of my money when I die. You're going to be a millionaire. So everyone's like, really, this is on the news, and everyone really is, oh, did you get the app? It's like Willy Wonka's golden ticket. But then when the 140 people get the app, he tells them, okay, you can all share my money 140 ways. But if one of you dies, my money will go to 139 of you. And if 139 of you die, one of you gets all my money, and he goes, off you go. Because basically this guy says he invented social media because he wanted to do something good for humanity. And he said all he saw on social media was the worst of humanity, day after day after day. So it's his little experiment at the end with his death is like, well, let's see what happens to you. And then it becomes a kind of social media battle royale, effectively. And yeah, it was great. And I mean, it's been optioned by DC a few times, and it might still make it a TV. Every now and again, it sort of raises its head again. So, yeah, we got fingers crossed.
Well, good. Yeah, man. That would be amazing. And truly, it's as timely as it was when it first came out, sadly. As civilization crumbles around us, you know?
Yeah, if you or I, like I like to think, John, if you or I were offered that, we'd go, no, that's fine. I'll have 140, my
plenty of money. Plenty of money.
All it takes is one arsehole to go, oh, maybe if I just push this guy in front of a bus, I get a few more million. Maybe I could do that. And there is always going to be one arsehole out there. So there you go.
100%, man. Yeah, I know. Believe me, I know. There's sadly fewer of us than there. It seems there are a few of us nice people as opposed to the assholes out there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but that's what it explores, right? I mean, it's just like, how far
human nature.
Human nature. And the general idea of it was, it doesn't matter what the technology is. You put, like, whether it's you put a stick in our hand, we'll club someone over the head with it. But when we, you put a brick in our, and you put a gun in our hand, you put a social media in our hand, and human beings are, the whole idea was we never got out of the food chain. We never got out of the jungle, basically. We just got, snazzier toys these days.
100%, man. No, it's very much the treasure of the Sierra Madre in social media form.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm absolutely.
I'll take that. Yeah, absolutely.
So, what's on the horizon that you can tell us about?
I've done some more Judge Dredd. I'm constantly dipping in my toe in and out of Judge Dredd for 2000 AD. I always really enjoy it. So there's a story called The Special Relationship coming up, and in Dredd's world, Dredd is the East Coast of America. Or that's Mega City 1 is all down the East Coast of America, and then there's Britsit, which is the Britain. And in The Special Relationship, there's going to be they might have a little war, but only a small one, basically, on the equivalent of an oil rig in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. There's a little sort of mini kind of conflagration. So that was kind of funny. I enjoyed writing that. And what else is coming up? I mean, I've got a few. There's some more. I can't say what it is, but there's some more Dark Horse stuff coming potentially. In the Hellboy universe. And I've been doing quite a few things for TV of late, and none of which I can talk about yet.
Terrific.
So we'll. It's kind of, you feel useless saying that. It sounds rubbish, but there's a couple of projects, and we'll see if anything comes of them.
Is it? And I don't even know if you could say this. Is it British TV? Is it American TV? What or
it's potentially a bit of both. Some of it's on spec as well. I'm working with you work with a producer. You work with a production company, and they buy your idea, and then you develop it together, and then you take it out to your Netflixes and your Amazons, and you try and sell it to them, and so we'll see. I mean, there's a long there's, as I found with this stuff already, there's a long way off between writing something and something actually ending up on the screen. So
absolutely. And I mean, right now, this has been a recurring conversation. I can't believe I would have thought by now some of those streamers would have canceled each other out, and we'd be at less streamers. It seems like there's even more now than there was 5 years ago. And
I think they're just really hungry for. It's a golden age for comics, basically. And who would have thought? It's crazy. I mean, I had a moment in the cinema last week just watching Spider-Man fight Doctor Strange above Manhattan, and I'm kind of going, what's going on? This is like 12-year-old me would just be in heaven. You can't imagine it. And every other show on a streaming platform appears to be either a comic or based off a comic or inspired by, certainly. So it's a good time to see your favorite comic, create your own comic, especially, sort of end up on the screen, hopefully.
And as far as 2000 AD, when it comes out, when your stories come out episodically, is it 8 pages at a time? How many pages are you? Or
it's 6 normally. It's normally 6. Yeah, it's
wow.
It's a real different rhythm to.
That's what I'm working. Yeah, tell me about that, please.
And I've been doing it for years, so I'm kind of used to it. But it feels like all you've got room for in a 6. In a way, it's simple and it makes your choices for you, I find, because if you write to a 3-act structure and you haven't really got much time to be postmodern with 6 pages, do you know what I mean? It's and also there's the nature of 2000 AD. It needs to be propulsive and it needs to have a big cliffhanger, and it needs to. Bottom line is, it needs to make you want to read next week. It's a bit like the old Republic serials, in that
100%, absolutely, man.
So all you do, you get pages 1 of your 6. Is it sort of write-in tip for wannabe writers?
Yeah.
You get pages 1 and 2 is Act 1. So all you do there is you do your setup, who's involved, what the problem is, what do they want. Pages 3 and 4, they want something. They're trying to get it. There's something stopping them getting it. And then pages 5, and then you have your twist. And then pages 5 and 6 is you're out and your cliffhanger. And it just feels, you can tell. I mean, look at some of the great stories that come out of 2000 AD over the years. It kind of works. But also, when you then go to, and there's the big history of British writers on 2000 AD come into the States, is suddenly you're given 20 pages or 22 pages, and you kind of go, oh, wow, I've got all this room to do. But I mean, the amount of story you cram into 6 pages, because you have to, you haven't got any choice. I think John Wagner, the great John Wagner, co-created
John Wagner.
I mean, he said, right, in 6-page episodes, he said it sorts out the men from the boys, basically, writing-wise. But it's a really great platform to build out of. And then when you're given more space, I think what the basics are you have to do. You have to cover those, and they're the basics of engaging storytelling, I think.
I am honestly, I am fascinated by the economy of space that you have, or the lack of it, and the fact that you have to tell that kind of story bursts like that in 6 pages. And I'm so with Wagner like that. I think it's a lost art. I'm glad it is still happening in the UK, because certainly in the Bronze Age and the Silver Age, there were a lot of 6 and 8 page stories. And it's interesting now, and I don't know if you've done this yet, but especially at DC, they've kind of gone back to 8 and 10 page stories in some of these like holiday anthologies and other things. Have you written any stories for those?
Yeah, well, I've just done one for a DC anthology recently, but I did on my Suicide Squad run, in the initial sort of 10, 12 issues, we did that. We did sort of the main story took up 12 pages, and then there'd be an 8-page backup. And I wrote the 8-page backups with different artists every week, which was partly because we were double shipping and the deadline were insane. So, and so I kind of went into that, and I think I felt like I had a good handle on that, because I'm used to working in that kind of territory. But I mean, I think the only downside to it is sometimes you can learn bad practice through it, in as much that you very often, most pages have like 6 panels on the page with 2000 AD, because you've got a lot to cram into those 6. So you kind of get used to doing that. So then when you come to American comics, sometimes you kind of go, you can feel yourself going, 6 panel pages. You go, no, you can let it breathe a bit. And also, because some artists, if you ask for that kind of level of detail, 6 panel pages, every page you're not letting the artist sort of have their breathe as well, and you'd be able to show their full armory as well.
Yeah.
So you've got to be kind of careful with it.
Understood, man. No, I think that's amazing. Dante wanted to know if you're a Steelers fan. Is that American?
No, I'm not. I'm a Rams fan, but I do have
Oh, there they
I've got
are.
Mean Joe Green up there because
Ah!
Mean Joe Green is the only non-Ram who's allowed on my little shelf of figures. Actually, I say that. I keep on meaning to buy an Earl Campbell figure as well. Earl Campbell would be allowed up there as well. But I just how can you not love Mean Joe Green if you're a football fan, right?
Dude, that was my era. Absolutely. I remember Joe as well. That's fantastic. You're killing me. That's great that you're an American football fan. That's wonderful, man. I keep meaning to watch. They've got a great Rams. You said you're a Rams fan, right?
Yeah.
They have this great documentary. I haven't watched it yet about. Now I'm blanking. The great quarterback during was it the 90s or the 2000s when they had
Kurt Warner. I haven't seen it. There's a movie has just come out telling his story. I've seen the trailer for it, but that was the Greatest Show on Turf era and Marshall Falk and
yes.
That was kind of awesome.
Kurt Warner reading the defense by looking at the jumbotron and supposedly that's where they all are. Fantastic! I'm going to throw there.
It's crazy. I mean, because for my sins, I've supported the Rams for decades, and I remember sort of watching his first. Well, no, actually, that's a lie. Listening to his first game on the radio on the internet because you couldn't watch.
Wow, that's hardcore, man.
And no one knew what he was. He came in because. I'm going off topic for comic fans.
I love it.
Trent Green was going to be the big Rams quarterback that year. He was a free agent they brought in. And then he busted his knee up in preseason and no one knew what Kurt Warner was going to do. And he came in and just like lit it up. It was just
absolutely. No, this is when I was doing sports radio.
Oh, okay.
So no, man. And I mean, I was in Chicago, but no, of course we were paying attention to what everybody was doing in the league and everything. And I love when documentaries come out of that era and stuff, and it's like, oh, that was my time. I mean, when Moneyball, the baseball movie, came out, at first I rejected it because I'm like, I covered that story. I remember that story. Why would I want to see a movie about it? I lived it, and then I saw the movie. It's like, oh, actually, it's a very good movie.
I love that movie. That's a great movie, and I rewatched it not so long ago, and I think it's beautifully done movie. But the interesting thing about that, I watched it the second time, is you kind of go, there is hardly any baseball in that movie. It's a baseball movie all about they somehow made a great baseball movie about the sort of the statistical side of sort of the building a team that way, but you don't actually see much of the action on the out on the field with it. But so I take it, John, I imagine you're a Bears fan living in Chicago.
Yeah, of course, and I mean,
you don't sound passionate.
What's that?
You don't sound passionate in that regard.
Well, I mean, obviously they've been a bit frustrating the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And man, I'll tell you, I was as a child thrilled. Not only in the 70s when even though they had losing seasons, they beat the hell out of the other team and sent them home on stretchers and stuff. But also, I mean, I was in college for the Super Bowl, and that was a big deal. And really, getting into sports radio, got to know a lot of those 1980s. And early 90s Bears, but really my broadcast years a lot of times were the shit years of Dave Wanstead and real 7 and 9, a lot of 7 and 9 and 6 and 10 seasons and stuff. So no, I was a little frustrated, but no, I've enjoyed Doug Buffone, a great 60s and 70s player, was one of my best friends in radio, sweetheart of a guy, absolutely tremendous, like real mentor to me in a lot of ways. And really helped explain the game to me as a broadcaster and as a former athlete. Yeah. So no, I mean, boxing is my big sport of all things, believe it or not. Yeah. So
okay, well, I can't match you on that. Although I did recently watch a couple of I haven't watched boxing for years. I watched a couple of heavyweight title fights and just really enjoyed it and forgotten how much I'd enjoyed it.
I'm looking forward to Tyson Fury beating the hell out of Dylan White. I got to be honest, I'm not a big Dylan White guy.
Tyson Fury's just what he's done is just extraordinary. But was it Krutchko who beat oh man, Joshua? Who beat Joshua?
Alexander Usyk, the Ukrainian cruiserweight. What a fight!
He was unbelievable. It was just like the size difference, and he just beat the crap out of him. He was so fast. But anyway, yes, we're probably off topic. This is more a pub conversation, John.
Well, but I love it. That's all right, man. No, we do tangents. That's all right. Dante wanted to know if we're looking forward to the Zachary Levi as Kurt Warner film. Yes, we are.
Yeah, the trailer looked great. I mean, but yeah, who would they got playing Dick Vermeil in that as well? Is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
It was really, I forget now, but it was like that's strange. But yeah, anyway, there you go.
You're killing me, man. This is great. Here, comic question or a statement by Mark. I follow Staz Johnson on Twitter, and when he posts his Judge Dredd panels, he draws them on separate pages.
Yeah.
Do you know, is that a common practice for 2000 AD series?
No, I don't believe it is. I don't think any of the Judge Dredd artists I usually work with do that. I think that's Staz's own thing, but it's just like whatever works, right? I mean, if it
sure.
Staz does really cool looking dreads, so yeah, fair play.
Do you find being confined to the 6-page episodic format that when it is collected in a trade, does it, do you find it works? Does it work differently than the 20 pages of an American episode?
I think it's got its own rhythm because it's got a really big cliffhanger every 6 pages. And I think if you like any longer story, if you plan it all out, it all comes. You see different things when you read the collection when you're getting that. Because you've got a week to wait, with 2000 AD. Hopefully, if the cliffhanger does its job, you're not giving it, and you'll forget a bunch of things in a week. We're all busy people, right? But so when you've got the collection in front of you, sometimes it has a different kind of flow to it. Absolutely. But
do they eliminate any sort of first panel you remember from last week? The
no, and we don't. We kind of largely don't do that. They have a summary box on page on the inside cover of 2000 AD every week, and it's got a tiny, this is what you need to know. But we don't do a lot of we kind of trust the readers to stick with us, really. It's no, it's fun. I mean, I don't know if I can show things. I've got staring at me. Hang on.
No worries. I appreciate you stretching. It's all good.
Hopefully I won't break it. I got that.
Wow.
That's a Mick McMahon original.
Yeah.
And Mick's one of the absolute classic Judge Dredds. So that's sitting in front of my desk most days when I'm working.
That's gorgeous, man. Well done. That's beautiful.
But I think one of the cool things about just to sing Dredd's praise over the years just as a strip is, and one of the amazing things about it is you can, so many different artists with so many different completely distinct styles of drawn Dredd, and it all works. You just buy it. There's not a house style. There's anything but. So you've got Mick McMahon doing his kind of really sort of crazy kind of out there kind of avant-garde at times, sort of like body shapes, and it's really dynamic and energetic. And you've got Brian Bolland. Mick and Bolland would be, sometimes they'd be in the same story. One week it'd be Mick, the next week it'd be Bolland, and their styles couldn't be more distinct. And I think you've just got such an amazing array of artists over the years. So yeah, people should check out Dredd if they never have, American readers, definitely.
Well, and not only Dredd, but I mean, I'm a Rogue Trooper fan.
Yeah.
A lot of I'm very fortunate to be on the press list and everything. So I get my previews and my PDFs and everything, and it's always a pleasure to read. And truly, I appreciate the it's a different head writing 2000 AD than it is American comics, and I find that fascinating. And that's why I enjoy talking to you, talking to Pat Mills. I can't wait. I gotta read Pat's latest nonfiction account of his career. And those are a joy. And it's so great. Like every 1 or 2 years, I connect together with Pat. And it's like, all right, man, let's go over this. This is great, and it's really fun.
Pat's not short of opinions, and so I think he'd be a very interesting interviewee, I imagine.
I would love to talk to John at some point, and I don't know how to reach him, but I would. It would really be an honor. I'm a longtime fan.
Well, we can. I mean, I don't know John well, but I can probably hook you up maybe.
Oh, that's lovely, man. I wasn't asking, but I appreciate if you are.
Because I think the interesting thing with John is the fact that, like you say, Dredd and his world is America, is the East Coast of America, And you kind of go, but then 2000 AD is a British publication. But of course,
Absolutely.
John was sort of, is from both sides because he was born in America, but then he's grown up for the majority of his life lived the majority of his life in the UK. So he's the bridge between the two, actually, you know.
That's awesome. I didn't realize I believe that's reverse Dan Slott. I believe Dan was born,
was it?
born in
Oh,
the UK.
was Dan born in the UK? I didn't know that.
I know his parents are British, and I mean they're
Right.
here now and they're on the East Coast. But
Right.
I know if he wasn't born there, he certainly spent a lot of his youth visiting family there.
Right,
So,
that explains his love for Doctor Who, basically, which is seems to be very passionate. Yes,
absolutely, man. No, that's great. And Dante, for a final football thought, and I agree with him. Or I should say, he goes, I remember during my touring concert days, most of the guys from the UTA were amazing at fantasy football during the tour. He lost a lot of money back then.
I'm useless at fantasy football. I just, I can't. Just because of the fact that I watch way too much NFL and whatever, but I still don't seem to be any good at that.
My joy is going across the ocean, and I've only been on one European trip, but there's that terrible Ashton Kutcher movie where he's in Europe and is just delighted watching American football in Europe while he's there. And I know I was in Amsterdam, and it was great, like, so late at night watching like afternoon games back in the States, and we're like, this is amazing.
Yeah, well, I like long memory, but I used to be able to listen to the NFL on Forces Radio in Europe, right? So I would drive my car, like not all the time, because this makes me sound stranger than I am. This was a rare occurrence, but you drive your car up onto I used to live in a valley, and like you drive up onto the other side of a mountain because you could just about pick up Forces Radio and listen to the NFL. So I think I was a little too obsessive at that point.
Hey, man. I'm a broadcast nerd. So believe me, in the evenings when antennas were allowed to broadcast further than the contained city, to pull in stations from other parts of the States was really exciting for, in that pre-internet age.
Yeah.
It would, because it's like, what is the rest of the world doing as opposed to our little bottled city of Candor existence that we normally have?
It's pretty much where I grew up, just in Wales, the bottle city of Candor. So this was, you sort of sort out that stuff and got it anywhere you could, basically, because it was, you can't imagine. For all my moaning about social media with unfollow, look at the world it's opened up to us. Look just how bonkers it is that, we're chatting now and you're in Chicago and I'm here.
100%. Well, and truly, man, this is one of the good things. I mean, again, as we point out about all the negative things in unfollow and the various technological advances and stuff. It's nice that we are able to have these conversations, believe me. And it's as always. And truly, man, I'm so glad everything's going well. And we'll remind everybody once again, I got to get back up to it. Here it is. First issue out last week, the sort of Hyperborea.
That's right. Yeah. Well said.
Next month, issue 2, and out issue 4, out just today.
Today, that's right.
And 5th issue coming, and 5th issue wraps it up right next month.
Yeah, that's our big finale. Yeah, and again, I Will Conrad's done some beautiful interior work on that, and Will's stuff alone deserves a wider audience.
100%, truly, man, one of my favorite artists, and just like Dark Horse, AWA, very smart to put you guys together, or however that happened. Look at my crazy hair. Now everyone understands why I got the hat on and
Don't
stuff.
brag to me about your crazy hair when you're talking to a bald man, John. Come on.
I'm sorry. I'm in desperate need for a haircut. I'll be getting one as soon as I wrap up this conversation with Rob. But as always, Rob, truly great talk. Hang out if you don't mind as I play a closing video to say goodbye to everybody. But but as always, thank you very much for talking today. Hilarious. And please, keep me in the loop on whatever's next, television or comic wise, and we'll pick it up again in a few months.
Thanks a lot, John. Really nice to talk to you, man. And thanks for having me again.
As always, thank you everybody for watching and listening. And Kinescope tomorrow. It's a dark drama. It's the Days of Wine and Roses, but Gabe Hardman insists we cover it. So be it. That's going to be the conversation tomorrow night, and more great stuff for January here at Word Balloon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.